What's your addiction? So let's talk about addictions, healthy addictions versus unhealthy addictions, to be more specific. So, and what they may look like, what the differences may look like. Okay, so so for the last few days, I've had this cough. Fortunately, I can actually speak right now. My voice doesn't sound too much like a jazz singer's, but I had this cough and my voice has slowly been going. I haven't spoken for a couple of hours properly, so it's probably helped. But after like a few days of no training, 2 to be precise, I was like, no, I need to get outside and go train. And I was tired of doing stretching and only stretching and stuff like that and massaging myself and that. I needed to get outside and train. So I went this morning, had a little workout, and before I went, I thought I'll gauge my energy levels, how I feel, how much strength do I feel I've got. If I feel like I'm too weak and so forth, then I'll stop. Because obviously with a cough like this, and which is affecting my voice, I have slight flu symptoms. I'm just navigating through the mud here. That's why I'm not watching the camera as much, which is fine. Okay, while I'm talking, you can have a look here outside of the scenery. So even after 2 days of not being able to train, I needed to train. I needed to get outside in the air, and it was a beautiful morning this morning. The temperature was great, 9 degrees, sunny. It was really nice. Bit of a breeze, so I had to cover up to protect myself. And saying that for me is my addiction. That's one of my addictions, I'd say. And that addiction is training. I need to train. If I don't train after a certain period of time, I start to get the Jimmy Jakes, literally. I get withdrawal symptoms if I don't train. But in the same breath, I've got to monitor that as well. Even though it's a healthy addiction, I still got to monitor it, because I don't want my body to wear down. I don't want to be developing aches and pains and niggles and all this kind of stuff, which I've done in the past. I never looked after my body as much as I could have in the past, and I was training like sometimes 3 times a day. I was doing something physical, very often 3 times a day, because I'd be training myself. I might be teaching a class, I'd be training with a client maybe. So it was like my body took a lot of abuse. Okay, and this is one of the primary reasons why in my early 40s, I started to feel a lot of physical pain in my body. Was because of this abuse that I had put onto it in my 20s and 30s, of being so driven to being fit and healthy and strong and all of that, and keeping my fat levels down, because when I was young, I was naturally overweight. I was never fat as such, but I was a chubby kid, and I was very self-conscious of my physique as a kid, because everyone else around me was like super lean and trim and muscular and stuff like that as I got older. But that was my addiction. That became my addiction, was to train. But I still got to curb it. I still need to monitor it and check it. One of my other addictions is watching movies where you just kind of just get lost in from the world and time, and like sci-fi movies and things like this. But unfortunately, most sci-fi movies are quite violent, and there's a lot of aggression in most of these sci-fi movies. Gone are the old days of Star Trek. When it wasn't, it was pretty mundane. The violence and stuff like that. But so I don't want to watch movies like that too often, because it has a negative impact on my energy, like it does for all of us. So I've got to monitor that as well. So in substitute for that, I watch a lot of comedy movies, and I like to watch historical stuff as well. But sci-fi is my favorite. Unfortunately, most movies that are made sci-fi these days, as I mentioned, are pretty violent. Not all, but most. So that's a drawback. But I've got to curb that. I've got to monitor that. I've got to keep check of that as well. There's certain foods that I could say pretty close to it. I'm addicted to it. Even healthy foods. So I've got to also monitor that as well. I can't have too much of something. It's going to have adverse effects on my health eventually. So I've got to monitor that too. So what are your addictions in that regard? Be they good or bad? Be they healthy or unhealthy? And if it's a healthy addiction, like training, for example, or doing something which is physically active, meditation could be a healthy addiction. You still want to make sure you just keep check of it from time to time. Don't go overboard. Don't go too much into the extreme, because we can see what happens with individuals when they become too extreme about something. They become very dogmatic about it, and they just kind of get blinkered vision. So you want to also make sure that you check that from time to time. Make sure that it's still healthy for you and it's not becoming detrimental to your health or anybody else's health for that matter. Okay, that's around you. That's it. And then the other thing is obviously unhealthy addictions. What are they? Be honest about them, be clear about them, and just take responsibility for whatever the addiction is, be it unhealthy or healthy. Whatever the addiction is that you identify within yourself and your characteristics and the type of person you are, just accept them for what they are. They are addictions. It's neither good nor bad. It just is what it is. And kokus. And then just take 100% responsibility and accountability for that addiction, no matter what addiction it is. You need to take 100% responsibility and accountability for it. Beautiful, right? Yeah, it's gorgeous here. So those are my addictions. What are your addictions? Be they good or bad, healthy or unhealthy, right or wrong, whatever the terminology you want to use. What are your addictions? It'd be nice for you to share this video with some people as well. Share this video and let them start asking themselves the question, what are their addictions? There's no judgment. I'm not here to judge. No one else is here to judge. We shouldn't even be judging ourselves, but we typically do judge ourselves, and because we judge ourselves so much, we're too afraid and shy to share what those addictions may be, especially if they're bad addictions or perceived to be bad addictions. But share what your addictions are. No judging. I'm just curious, and I'm sure other people will be curious too, because somebody else might be in your shoes, in your boat, similar boat to you, and by hearing your story, then it may encourage them. So share this, love this, like this, comment on this, engage, interact, give feedback. I love your feedback. I always love your feedback, and because it just opens up dialogue and new thoughts to come into fruition. Love that. Take care. Have a beautiful day. And I look forward to speaking to you soon.